Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism, and I'd like to invite you to a conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience. And today I'd like to have a conversation about the energetic blockages that can occur in a person's energetic anatomy, or the chakra system. And remember, the chakra system isn't just, the 7 major chakras. They can, there are chakras all over the body, not just 7. Major chakras are the 7, but there are plenty of minor and micro chakras as well. Before I get started, though, I'd like to welcome Santara to the program. Hello, Santara.
Hello, Chrism. It's good to be here, as always.
I hope that people are able to hear us today. Always concerned.
Well, the chat room is open. The question, and Secret tells me it's a little choppy. So maybe if we continue, we could get some more feedback from there.
So it's a little choppy. Okay, all right then. Not sure how I can correct that. But just a second here. I'm going to have to sneeze. Santara, if you have some announcements to make, this is a good time.
She says it's better, Chrism. Yeah, she says it's better, Chrism, there. So I let's keep going, and Ashley says it's fine now as well. I do have an announcement to make. I'll give the usual announcement about where listeners can make a donation if they are in a position to do so and wish to do so. You can go to the website www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. And there on the top right-hand corner, you'll find the donate button, and all donations that are given to support Chrism in the work that he does, not just here on Blog Talk Radio, but he works 24/7 supporting people, teaching people that are going through an awakening process, that are going through a spiritual emergency. There are so many ways that he gives his teachings to people. And so if you want to support that work, it is greatly appreciated. I'll give you the address again. It's www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. And so I'm just wondering as well, Chrism, if I could say something about seminars.
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead. Okay. Well, as you know, we had a seminar recently in Ireland for Europe, and it went really, really well. And we are currently starting to make out a schedule of seminars for 2014. And these are going to be offered in the United States. And again, hopefully, we will have a seminar at some stage in 2014 in Europe. But what we're doing at the moment is I'm making out a register of interest, where I'm going to invite people to write to me, not with a commitment to attend a seminar. It's not about that. It's really about making a declaration of your genuine interest if you want to attend a seminar. And if you let me know your location as well, it would be very helpful for us, and indeed maybe for you as well, as if there is, a cluster of interest in a particular place, we will do our best to locate the seminar in that place. At the moment, it looks like there is some interest on the East Coast, but we have not yet decided whether it will be New York or Boston or some other area. So if you're living on the East Coast, for example, do write in and let us know that you have an interest in attending and where you are from. And from that information, we will begin to put together a schedule. There's going to be a seminar on the West Coast as well, maybe LA, that area, San Francisco. But again, we're going to wait and see. I would invite you to write in and let me know your location. There's definitely going to be a seminar in Minnesota. organised by Rosemary. She's going to be hosting that, and that's going to be taking place for sure at the end of September, beginning of October, maybe the last 2 weeks in September or the first 2 weeks in October. And again, if that is an area that you would like to attend, please do write and let me know. I will give you the address. It is kundalinimatters@gmail.com. So that's it. I'm not getting any more feedback, but the sound is bad, so I'm going to assume, Chrism, that it's okay. Me over and out for now.
Okay, thank you, Santara. I'm going to come over here and get some headphones just because I have a feeling that there may be repeats happening because my mic would be picking up your words. So I'm going to put the headphones on and we'll get started. I would like to let people know that there are other places to get this information. One can go on YouTube, and on YouTube, the address is chrism.kundalini on YouTube, and you can watch about 275 videos, I think, somewhere around there, all about the Kundalini. It's all about the Kundalini. And you can also go to Kundalini Awakening Systems, #1.com. So that's Kundalini Awakening Systems 1.com. You can read a lot of the articles there. You can see some of the videos there as well. And on Facebook, we're at Kundalini Awakening ! And also Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Facebook, and Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, which is a public group that is also on Facebook. On the Yahoo network, we are at the group of the same name, Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at yahoogroups.com, and also Kundalini Awakening Healing, or Kundalini Healing, which is on the Yahoo and the Facebook groups. So there you have it. Today, I'd like to say hello to Chris and to Tim Ashworth. Hello, Chrism Harris. Hello, Fashji Sigrid. Madeva Sadvi. Hello to everyone, and to the other guests that are here. 2154, 2193, and 2231, and 8009. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the live broadcast for this conversation about the Kundalini Awakening experience, where we're going to be talking about energetic blockages within the energetic anatomy. Everybody has this. In order to survive on this world, people have to develop certain filters and certain programs of understanding based upon cause and effect. You know, if you touch the hot iron, it's going to burn your finger, things of that nature. You drop the hammer on your foot, it's going to hurt. So, you know, within that understanding, when the Kundalini comes, it is going to blow through a lot of the blockages. And by blowing through, I mean literally blowing through. And that doesn't mean like an explosion. Sometimes it'll just send a small aspect of its energy into the blockage in order to begin to loosen the hold. And when the Kundalini does that, and say if the blockage is in the heart chakra, well, you'll feel a shaft of energy go right into that heart chakra. It may make you feel, if it's strong enough, it could make you feel like you're having, you know, a bit of a cardiac problem, but you're not. You're not. But I invite you to go to the ER if you need to go to the ER to ascertain that you don't. But many of these blockages are there as a result of surviving in this society. Excuse me a moment. So as you survive in society, you develop a blockage that is based upon surviving in society. It's not a blockage so much to you as you're, you know, before the person is awakened. It's only after the awakening occurs, really, in the Kundalini context that I'm talking about this now. But I do want people to know that this isn't an emergency. This is common. This is very, very common, and it's caused by many, many various situations. And some of you may have some of these various situations happening to you right now. Let's see. Looking on here now. Is the sound coming through okay? Can somebody call in and let me know if the sound is coming through clearly? I don't want to, I don't want people in the archives, and hello to you all in the archives. I don't want the archive people to have to listen to a mistake that's happening over and over and over. So if somebody could call in, let me know. Yeah.
Chrism, John says the sound is really good.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Good luck on that poker.
And Eileen also has just said sound is good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Excellent. So let's get right into these energetic blockages. Some of the blockages are karmic, and they follow you into this life. But you knew about this when you fell into the flesh body. You knew that you would have this blockage to contend with, and it's not a it is somewhat of a problem only because it's supposed to be a problem. It's not supposed to be, all sugar plum fairies and candy canes in your in your life experience, as many of you know. These blockages from a karmic nature are going to be powerful because you are here to resolve those blockages. And so one blockage can be that of forgiveness. If you have a karmic blockage coming into your energetic anatomy that has to do with a lack of forgiveness in another experience, life experience, well then in this experience you're going to be presented with many opportunities to have forgiveness, which means that there will be people here who interacting with you that are going to do things that will allow you the opportunity for forgiveness. Now, are you kind of seeing where I'm going with this? Anything from any kind of a problem or any kind of a situation where you would be required to forgive another person can be an indication that maybe something not so pleasant was happening within that equation. So these karmic blockages are absolutely essential to your spiritual evolution. You came in with them. You came in with them, and you came in with the idea that you knew they would have to be solved, and you knew the patterns of probabilities and the different scenarios that may present themselves to you in this lifetime before you took the flesh body. And so this is all good. This serves you well. In a Kundalini context with this, however, the Kundalini will bring this on rapidly and in an expanded format. It will allow you to feel in a very visceral and tactile way the level of forgiveness that must occur, that you must initiate. And in that expanded context with the Kundalini, certain scenarios may be presented to you that will cause you to have no other option but forgiveness. But this also goes for tolerance. No other option but to be tolerant. You may love being a kindergarten teacher, and as you're a kindergarten teacher, you're going to have to tolerate the different levels of behavior from the children. And so this, of course, would teach you tolerance. Well, forgiveness, it's a very similar situation. And if there's anybody who's listening that would like to call into the show, the number is United States area code 347-934-0026. Another cause of blockage, that isn't of a karmic nature would be of an embedded entity type of nature. And this is also very, very, very common. This is not anything to be afraid of. We don't know science and the paradigm of reality that our society operates from does not really have a very good understanding of what's happening within the energetic blends of the dimensions that surround us and interpenetrate this dimension. And sometimes entities, through fear or through another type of human emotion, can embed themselves in a person. And as they get comfortable there, their thoughts and their karmas and their issues may be felt by the individual who's having a Kundalini awakening experience. Or you'll go to a place where entities are, a haunted house or a sacred hill or something of that nature, and the entities that are there can attach themselves to you. And typically they'll attach to a certain chakra. Flesh divers or what I call a specific type of entity that purposely will dive into your flesh and stream through your energetic anatomy. You can feel that. And you know, they may try to influence you in one way or the other, but, you know, if you stick to the safety protocols, which we've discussed in other programs, you know, it's not going to be a real issue for you. In a way, it can be actually quite helpful for you because you learn what not to do. You learn what, you know, if this entity is making you feel a certain way that is inappropriate, well, you know that is not you, and therefore you know not to have that kind of a response. And so it's very good. It's a very good teaching tool. Now, the major chakras can have energetic blockage with the upsweep of a spinal sweep within a Kundalini context. Now, the spinal sweep itself, it won't be blocked by energetic blockages, typically. I try to stay away from absolutist statements because I know everybody's different, and you know it is possible that the spinal sweep would stop at a certain level because of a blockage. Typically, though, before a person can have a spinal sweep, there's a certain level of I don't want to use the word clarity, but there's a certain level of openness to all the chakras. And that's when the spinal sweep comes, it opens up all the chakras all at once. Boom, right there, right now. And you're wrapped in that level of bliss and that level of light and that level of at oneness with everything, at oneness with God. I mean, the most amazing experience a person can have. And then that will recede a little bit. You know, it may be a week, it may be 3 months. A person will be in a certain level of grace and bliss, and then that will recede, and then the real work begins of clearing out the blockages. Those blockages will, that are appropriate to the individual, will return, and that person will be given teaching scenarios from the Kundalini in order to learn how to release themselves from the burden of that blockage. So let's just go to the heart. Person has a spinal sweep. You know, they may know about the Kundalini, they may not. But what the Kundalini will do after an initial spinal sweep, or as it is preparing a person to have a spinal sweep, is it will put that little finger of energy into that blockage, just enough for the person to feel it. Sometimes it'll feel like a sharp pain, like I said, a cardiac incident. And then it'll back off a little bit. And then it'll put in a little more energy. And then it'll back off a little bit. It'll put in more and more and more until that blockage begins to unfold. And of course, when that blockage begins to unfold, a whole level of teaching will envelop that person as that blockage is released, and a person may remember why the blockage occurred at all, or not. Most important, really, is that the blockage is released, and that person can now open themselves in their heart center to levels of love and receiving love and giving love and really begin to support their ascendancy and their awakening process by having the clarity of the fourth chakra happen for them. many people take a while to have this occur because many people don't know that it's the Kundalini that's happening to them. And so it takes a long time. It took me a very long time to even figure out that I had Kundalini at the time. So, no internet, very few cell phones, no books on the subject. And so these days, I think a lot of you are absolutely blessed. And I want to say hello to Bruno Amadori. Hello, Bruno, you sacred male, you, and Fasci, you sacred male. Anyway, so yes, the energetic blockages can be profuse in a person, and that will be another opportunity for the Kriyas to come along and begin to loosen those blockages. So you may start shaking. You may start being contorted into different positions. You may all of a sudden have emotional spikes that you've never had before. All of that is an indication of Kundalini Kriyas beginning to have an effect on the existent blockages within the person's energetic anatomy. As these blockages are loosened, well, then the forgiveness and the recapitulation and the trust and the faith in the Kundalini can come into the person, and they can actually actively, those who are hearing this, begin to actively embrace this clearing process that can be so crippling if you're resisting the healing that the Kundalini is offering with this. For those of you that might have questions, the number is 347-934-0026. So as the Kundalini is either preparing or after it has committed to a spinal sweep on the person, say a blockage in the first is quite typical. So a blockage at the base of the spine. This has to do with survival. This has to do with fight or flee. This has to do with having your basic needs met. This has to do with the levels of reproduction of the species. This has to do with those of fear or fearlessness that a person may have. And many people, including myself, have had or actually have at this moment a blockage in their first chakra. And the Kundalini will begin to move them. It will move them side to side. It may move the tailbone itself so that the person will have the extraordinary sensation of the tailbone wagging side to side or up and down. And, so these Kriyas don't come just because, they think it's a fun ride. There's a very, very definite reason why these Kriyas are happening. And many of the Kriyas are aiding the blockage removal. And it is a ministration from the Kundalini that is causing the Kriya that is beginning to loosen the blockage. Now, if you don't loosen the blockage, or you're not responding, or you're resisting, then some fairly challenging scenarios may come your way. So if we're at the first chakra and you're saying, "Wow, I'm not gonna," oh my gosh, I am so not going to give in to this. I'm not going to, I'm not going to cooperate. This is not what I'm used. This is how I'm not used to feeling, and I'm not going to stop feeling the way that I'm normally feeling, and therefore I'm going to resist. Now, most people wouldn't phrase it that way, but you get the feeling, you get the gist of what I'm saying. Well, then the Kundalini will begin to bring in levels of fight or flee, levels of fear. Entities may come along to take advantage of a person's resistance, to engender fear or to engender a resistance concept that the person may find more appealing than having to surrender to the Kundalini. This may occur. Yeah, there are a lot of entities out there, and they're watching. Kundalini people aren't that common, and so the Kundalini person that is developing, in the early development stages, well, they may become a bit of a menu for different entities to come along and to stimulate certain responses from the individual. But as the individual begins to learn that, oh, maybe this isn't something that I should be resisting. Maybe this is a good thing. Their corrected behaviors can begin to loosen the blockage. And as the blockage is loosened, the entities really don't have a remaining food source, and they'll move on, just like any other predator species. They go for the easy food first. The blockages can be expanded tremendously so, especially in the first, because we're dealing with issues of fear, we're dealing with issues of self-worth, we're dealing with issues of survival. And so as those ideas are expanded by the Kundalini, the person can really go into levels of Kundalini syndrome that can be difficult. Excuse me. Kundalini syndrome is all about allowing fear to come into the Kundalini awakening equation, and fear is a typical indicator of a blockage. So if you're feeling fear about a certain thing, within the idea of and the understanding of Kundalini awakening, you might want to look at the levels of blockage that you're experiencing. It isn't easy all the time. It can be very, very difficult. You may have a blockage on your fifth. Having a blockage on your fifth, you have to look, well, okay, what does the fifth represent? Oh, communication with self and others, all the different mechanizations of communication that happen with the ears, nose, eyes, throat, levels of hormone activity. All these different levels are occurring in the fifth chakra, and of course, entities can attach to that fifth chakra and can make it difficult for a blockage to be released. But if you have knowledge about the Kundalini, if you've listened to these programs, you have information, and you can use that information to your benefit and to begin to release those blockages. But it's not so easy, even if you know. How a person may ask, well, geez, Louise, if I've got a blockage in my fifth and I'm supposed to communicate with myself and others, well, how do I communicate with myself? Am I supposed to talk to a mirror? Well, everybody has a level of inner dialogue that they use, and so you change your inner dialogue to support the actual communication of yourself and of your Kundalini with yourself, and this will go to great levels to begin to relieve that blockage. Or if you have a flesh teacher, you can talk with your teacher about that, and you can allow that conversation to also begin to ameliorate that issue. Blockages happen all over the place, though. It's not just the 7 major chakras where they occur. Most of the time, however, you will get a blockage on the 7th. You may have attachments on the 7th, but you typically will not have an energetic blockage on the 7th. And if anything like that does occur, then the cranial migration will typically realign the cranial plates, realign the shape of the top of your head, and allow that blockage to be released. When you're having a blockage in your 6th chakra, that can bring in a lot of headaches, serious headaches. Now, sometimes people will see things within the Kundalini context that are very disturbing. Typically in the early process, you'll see the faces of people that you don't know. It'll just come streaming by. There's a face. Some are smiling, but they're all looking kind of right at you. It's almost as if they know you. But also you'll get faces of distorted, monstrous type of creatures. I don't want to scare anybody, but it's, as much as I don't want to frighten anyone, neither do I want to deprive anybody of the truthfulness of the situation. So I apologize if I'm scaring anybody. But this is part of what many people, not all, but many people experience with regards to the Kundalini. So they'll see something disturbing. I was able to see entities' heads coming out of the walls when I was little, or having an entity sit in a restaurant, remove his head, put the head on the table, then turn the head so that it's looking at me while I'm eating food. It sounds kind of funny right now. with that type of involvement, once again, you just have to have the knowledge of, oh, this is designed to scare me. Oh, okay. Well, hey, I'm scared. Hello, trick or treat. There's your candy bar. Now leave. So you don't buy into the fear manifestations no matter what occurs, especially when it comes to blockages. Once again, you don't want to fall into the idea of Kundalini syndrome by allowing fear to dominate your decision-making process. Whatever is causing the fear to occur, whether it's a blockage or an expanded insecurity that a person has about themselves or their placement in society, or it's from an entity, it doesn't matter. You make the decision not to succumb to fear, period. You make the decision not to succumb to the fear, and therefore that blockage becomes removed. Now, another blockage could be, negative self-worth. All the person's life, and this is reminiscent of my childhood. I had a lot of negative self-worth when I was a little kid, and this was exacerbated by different levels of parental support. And when you have, when you're getting parental support in a level of self-disenfranchisement, well then, that's just like giving permission to the child to go into depression about who they are and how they are, and invalidate that child's level of existence. So really, you parents out there, do your very best to support your children in who they are and how they are, and honor them. Honor them in that way, especially when they're in the formative years. So when you have a level of self-invalidation that once again gets exacerbated by the Kundalini, well, that can lead to clinical depression, and that can lead to levels of suicide or levels of self-destruction. And once again, these are all blockages. This is all blockages. Okay. And as these blockages are processed by the Kundalini will often bring you to situations or bring you to people that allow the blockages to be resolved. But you have to see that this is occurring, or you won't get it. So if you are being given a reason to come into this information, or for you who are listening right now, and if you know a person that may be going through this process and they're having levels of severe invalidation for who they are, how they are, gently begin to validate them for who they are and how they are. That change is a good thing, and that you can move from depression into states of validation, states of taking the person's entire existence and seeing it in a level of love and acceptance and grace and happiness and joy. They don't need to be clinically depressed, and they certainly don't need to be put on psychotropic drugs that are ostensibly labeled as helping people in depression when in fact, they're doing just the opposite. Stay away from the pharmaceuticals as much as you can, especially within a Kundalini context. Not saying that I'm not a physician, so I'm not going to prescribe or disprescribe, or it's not that that's a word. I'm not going to give you any medical advice, but as far as the Kundalini goes, a lot of these SSRIs are not helpful. And those will actually develop blockages. Okay, as they rechannel, certain parts of your brain, well, that's going directly counter to what the natural development and formation of your brain was designed for, especially within a Kundalini context. And so, the calcium channel blockers and all these other things, they will develop blockages for a person. And so a person really, when they go in to get help, they're actually being treated in a very mostly unknowing, but it's an amazing disservice for a person, especially those getting into psych wards. This is my opinion, my unmedical, non-professional opinion. But that is, as my Kundalini is showing me to be the truth. Okay, so do your very best. Those of you that have come out of psych wards, you will have blockages, and you will need to work on those blockages. And don't think that just because you have Kundalini that they're going to go away in 2 seconds. They're not. It takes some time to get rid of psychotherapeutically induced Kundalini blockage. So those of you that have been there and done that, you know what I'm talking about. You can work on these blockages. You just have to be severely honest with yourself. Really honest with yourself. You might want to just stop thinking in negative ways about who you are and how you are, and forget judging yourself based upon how much money you have. That is not important at all. Matter of fact, that's another blockage. Okay, that's another blockage. You know me. I mean, Centaurus says I work 24/7 to help other people, and to some degree that's true. But I do try to get some sleep sometimes. But the different time zones. I'm in PST time zone, Pacific Standard Time. India's awake. When 2 or 3 in the morning. China's awake 2 or 3 in the morning. Europe is awake 9 hours in advance of the Pacific time zone. And so, I can stay awake for long periods of time helping people, but I try not to do it all the time. But I do my best to help people, especially those who are in emergencies, and those are typically the people that are just starting to have the Kundalini awakening event. Not all people will have these blockages, but many people will. So I do try to help. The Kundalini in me insists that I help, and so I follow that insistence. I follow that guidance. I walk the talk that I'm preaching to you. Okay? Listen to the Kundalini. Learn from the Kundalini. So, you'll get some headaches from 6 chakra blockages in seeing things that are maybe a little too scary for you. Seeing an aura around a person, seeing a person's halo, seeing aspects of creation that nobody else sees, seeing dead people. That's always a fun one when you're not expecting it. So don't let what you see scare you into having a blockage on the 6th. Just realize that it's a big aquarium. And there's lots of little fishies in that aquarium. And we're one of those little fishies, and sometimes other fishies are going to swim right by us, and we'll get to see them. Don't let it scare you. Don't let it frighten you. It is natural. You wouldn't believe the amount of life that is going on around you that is actually of a physical dimensional level. The typical human scalp, I think, has somewhere on the line of 300 different species of lice embedded in the scalp. Of course, if you got a scalp like mine, they're getting a little sunburned. So maybe that's the answer to the lice issue. But there's a lot of bacteria, there's a lot of viruses, there's a lot of different micro life form creations that we don't see, that we breathe in, that are with us the whole time. And if you've ever seen a mite under a microscope, you say it's a pretty interesting looking creature. And you're not afraid of these, but you're only afraid of them because you don't see them. You don't have direct interaction with them. Well, Kundalini brings you into contact with direct aspects of these, and these can form a blockage in the 6th chakra. And I want to guide you away from that. I want you to begin to accept life in all of its varieties. Here in the United States, we're being programmed to be the same. You have to either with us or against us. That's the idea. The ideology, here often that you see in the political agenda of the people in the United States government. You're either with us or against us. And, I don't buy into that equation at all. The only person I'm with is me, and I'm with the Kundalini that's in me, and that's my agenda. Okay. So don't let any society-produced agenda develop a blockage in your system. Certainly not, in the appreciation of different forms of life or different forms of expression, which would also filter into the fifth chakra. Of course, expressing ourselves, communicating. Of course, be very, very cogent of how you think. And begin to choose how you want to think. Don't let somebody else make that decision for you. Don't let somebody else or some group of somebody else's make that decision for you. You're Kundalini now. You're beyond the societal taboos, the societal programming, the societal issues and blockages that are developed. But they will still try to foist that upon you. And if you're unknowing of your Kundalini and you're just, you're within the symptomology of it, but without knowing what is going on, well, then you can get sucked into these other societal programs. And I'm going to ask you right now that unless you really want to go there, don't go there. Go there. You can choose what you think. I was reading somewhere on Facebook today, some guy calls himself Sad Guru, which I think is kind of like calling himself Sat Guru, but spelling it wrong, using his name instead of the word Sat. And he says something very appropriate, I think, to our conversation today. Your brain thinks of millions and millions and millions of things all the time. And, he's suggesting you just, instead of taking everything, just pick what it is you choose to think about. When you go into the grocery store, you don't buy the entire store. You go in there and you pick certain things. And that's what we're suggesting that you do with regards to how you feel about any given circumstance that may be causing you a blockage. Well, you choose how you think. And when you choose how you think, you experience the fruits of that choice. And experiencing the fruits of that choice would go a long ways to relieving a blockage in the fifth chakra. And as I move down the energetic anatomy, once again to the heart chakra, the heart is huge. The heart chakra is, there are so many facets to it. I can't even scratch the surface of the mountain that the heart chakra represents. But some of the obvious things, like forgiveness, like tolerance, like unconditional love, like, these things of these blockages that can occur through mistreatment or karma or breaking up, with a husband or a wife or a boyfriend or girlfriend, or having a child pass away or a beloved pet pass away. These things can form extreme trauma to the heart chakra. And a person unknowing of the Kundalini can have that grief amplified times 1,000. It's absolutely terrifying. And if I know a person has an adult, has a mom or a daddy on their deathbed, and they want to have Shaktipat, I won't give it to them. I won't give it to them. Absolutely not. After they go through their grieving process, after all of that has been taken care of, so to say, then if they're in a level of stability, then of course I may give them that Shaktipat if they've been practicing the safeties. But before the grieving process, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It would be a horrible mistake, one that I have made. I have made that mistake, and to some degree, I will pay for that. But it was an unknowing mistake. I didn't think I didn't think their father was going to die so quick. Anyway, so as we enter into the heart chamber, here's where a lot of the karma is accrued, because love is so vast and it doesn't go away, and it has a direct effect on the present day circumstances of the person. This is where forgiveness is so very important. Do not let yourself develop a blockage against forgiveness, i.e., don't hold a grudge. Not hold a grudge and expect Kundalini to just ignore it, because it will not. Okay, if you're refusing to let go of grudges, or if you're refusing to be forgiving, you're going to get a certain level of blockage removal that will definitely catch your attention. Sometimes it feels like a very, very sharp, hot blade is being inserted into the heart chamber. And you need to understand that the blade isn't there just to pain you. It's there to get your attention, because along with the blade will come certain understandings or certain feelings of any given nature that might have comprised the blockage that person is holding the grudge for. And that experience needs to be honored. It will insist on being honored. And yeah, you can go to the emergency room, you can have them do all the cardiac functioning tests a whole bit. No, they won't find a darn thing unless, they want to find something in there, and you've got good insurance. Well, then, there's the Maserati payment for the MD. So be very, very aware of what the Kundalini is showing you in the levels of blockage release. And it is showing you this every day. Every day. From how you are when you're behind the wheel in stop traffic, to how you are at work, to how you treat your kids, to how you treat your friends, how you treat your spouse, to how you treat yourself. They're with you all the time. So take advantage of it. Learn from it and embrace it. And that blockage will be removed. One of the reasons why it can take a lifetime for people to come into an ascendancy factor, if they're even able to make it that far in one lifetime, is because of the amount of blockages that people accrue, not only in the other spiritual existences, but also in this physical existence. It depends on how we have responded to our environment. If we're a big person, have we bullied our way through life? Have we done that? And when the Kundalini comes, how do we forgive ourselves for what we have done? Okay, very important to look at this. And even if it's painful, you need to forgive yourself. You can't. It's not just about forgiving the other people. Really, it's about forgiving yourself, because when you pass from this plane and you're able to see the big picture of why you were here in the first place, you will definitely put in corrective measures, and you will jump into the next flesh body that you're allowed to inhabit. You will jump in, and typically it's the person with some guidance that will develop the next life of the individual, the next life for that person. They are so aghast at some of the things that they may have done, and some of the attitudes they may have adopted, and the lack of forgiveness, lack of tolerance, lack of patience, lack of trust, lack of self-esteem. All of these things, add up to these very, very specific blockages, and they will take another flesh body just to deal with these blockages. Okay? So moving down to the third chakra, the third chakra has to do with our connection to the cosmos, our connection to sacred male, to the sun, to the cosmological influences that affect us every day. The solar plexus is exactly what that phrase indicates. The solar plexus, the solar plexus. Okay, and that will often, that often has levels of how you see yourself in society, how you see your connectedness to the environment, how you see your connectedness to the universe, how you feel levels of sacred masculinity, how you feel about others and their influence on you, how you manifest wellness in your life, how you manifest the ability to stand up for yourself,
how you manifest these, so a lot of people with invalidation blockages, they have a real problem with their third chakra. Their third chakra can be absolutely shut down. That's how you make slaves out of people. You shut down their chakras in certain ways, certain combinations. Now, most people, but that's kind of the agenda on some people's minds. So, breathe into that third chakra, open that up, balance those blockages of negative self-worth, not being able to stand up for yourself, not being able to take in the grandeur of the solar influences that are coming into you. Turn that right around. Read that teaching called the Crucible of Reversal and reverse that process. Reverse that process and begin to really enjoy your connection to the solar energies that are coming through. Which, and this is just one area of the third. There are many, many other areas of the third that a person can really get blocked. But one of the best ways is to recognize what's going on and to do a general chakra balancing. And I'll talk about that in a little bit when I'm finished with with our top down. Okay, continuing with the top down, this brings us to the second chakra. The second chakra, of course, is all about creativity and reproduction and things of that level. Creativity, reproduction has been in many of the societies of the Western technological world a tool of bondage with regards to the idea of procreation. Excuse me. So the idea of procreation turns into something like pornography. Turns into something like what do they call it? BDSM. There we are. Couldn't think of it. Bondage, dominance, sadomasochism. There we are. The whole reproductive urge, the whole urge to merge with another person, merge physically and emotionally, turns into levels of shall we say, challenging levels of self-worth and role playing and things of that nature that may not be very healthy for the individual to experience, and they can get trapped in this. So that one blockage in that one area on the second chakra can trap a person for life inside a mountain of writhing flesh. If you've ever read Robert Monroe's Journey Out of the Body, one of the areas in the astral, which is kind of like a hell realm, is this mountain of writhing flesh, where people that have been so over interested in pornography and the actual animalistic nature of sex, they get trapped, and that's what they do for a long time. So anyway, if you can measure time outside of the human paradigm. So yeah, another aspect of the second being blocked are connected to the first is the adrenal response. A person in the Western technological societies, well, we're just trained to run on caffeine. We get that coffee break, and there you have it. It shouldn't be called a coffee break. It should be called a caffeine break. And if we have adrenal depletion, well, lethargy will come along, and it's hard to work. And so we try to make up for that lethargy with more and more stimulants, and then we'll add some nicotine in there just to really focus things up for the next 3 hours before that other break comes along, and you can refortify, and so on and so forth throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year. These are blockages too. You need to get yourself clear of the blockages that will kill you, and this is one that will kill you. you can deplete yourself so much to the point where there's really nothing left, and then all it's this vicious cycle of stimulant lethargy, and it goes on and on and on and on, and this is a blockage. So this is, of course, why in the safeties we say stay away from caffeine. If you've had Kundalini awakening for a while, such as I have, you can partake of the caffeine, but even then, you want to do it with levels of discretion, levels of in a minimalistic sense. So when I was traveling, as Amelia mentioned, we had a seminar in Ireland, and then another student brought me over to France, and then I traveled with her, Magdalene de Deus. I traveled with her throughout France and Switzerland and Spain, and there's they don't have any. Basically, we ended up eating at the gas stations most of the time, and so it's just terrible, terrible food. But with your Kundalini awakened to a certain degree, you can handle these things. You can, it will detox. It will help you survive because you haven't developed it into a blockage. You're just basically within a situation where this world does not provide biologic or organic foods in very many places at all. Here in Sonoma County in California, I get a plethora of organic opportunities as I go to Whole Foods, which I'll be doing tonight. I don't have any food. And you can eat that way, and you can avoid having those stimulative blockages and those digestive blockages that can occur through the second chakra. And then, of course, we're back to the first, and we've already gone through there. Now, in many ways, I'm talking so fast. I know I apologize because I'm talking so fast. It's just too much information, and I'm afraid that I won't be able to get it all out. So I apologize if it's hard to follow. Can anybody in our chat group tell me if I'm just talking too fast? Let me know. If you have any questions, definitely ask it on the chat. Tara, she'll relay it to me. Or you can call in at the 347 area code 934-0026. Okay. So let's talk about blockages in minor chakras. Minor chakras are in the elbows, the hands, the fingertips, the toe tips, the palms of the feet, the knees, the hips, the shoulders, aspects of the cervical collar, and going up into the skull. Definitely both sides of the chest. There are so many. There are too many for me to name, but these can also develop blockages. So, for instance, when you were a kid, you got your hand burned because somebody held it over a fire. And so, oh my God, that kids do the strangest, most awful things to each other, just to test their wills and to exploit the lack of will of, say, some of the weaker kids. And so, that hand chakra develops a blockage. Okay, and so in many ways, the person will have a tremendous level of fear, and that hand will, in a way, begin to atrophy in some ways. And I want you to realize that if this has happened to you, you take that hand and you forgive what was done by those other people, and you just really forgive it, and that forgiveness will become the healing balm that one chakra needs. And the same thing with, the old torture of the Cathars was to hold somebody's feet at the fire. Now, this happened to me in one of my first experiences of a hell realm. A bunch of law enforcement officers, picked me up because I was unhappy that they were raping my sister, and they held my feet to the fire and started saying, "Are you with us or against us?" and all of this type of stuff. And I didn't get a blockage from that because after a while I knew what was going on and I was able to learn from it, and so I didn't receive a blockage. And whatever level of blockage I did experience was ameliorated because of the crucible of reversal, which I recommend everybody begin to participate with. Down to an hour. Okay, anybody who wants to call in, the area code is 347-934-0026. With the blockages in, let's just take a blockage in the minor chakra of the mouth, above the upper lip or on the tip of the tongue. What it is that you say, what it is that you eat, how do you communicate? How do you communicate to your body vis-a-vis, the minor chakra, the tip of the tongue, which is actually a really powerful chakra. It's a master switch, which is why the Kundalini forces the tongue tip behind the upper front teeth. So you look at how you're communicating and how you're eating and all the things that the tongue has to do with. Okay, and then you make a honest determination of what you're doing with that, and then you begin to change your activities, change your behaviors, change the way you think, and change the things that you act upon. If you change the inner dialogue, you'll often change the outer expression. Okay, if you change your inner dialogue, you will change how you affect people in the outer world, in the world that is separate from you. Yes, I know. I'm hearing all the oneness. People's going, but we're all one. Well, we're not all one. Okay, you're one because you've adopted that ideology that you think you're one, but there are a lot of individuals here too. And yes, there's a sense, there is oneness within the grand scheme of things, but within the individual karmic balancing person, there's a lot of individualism too. So we are at one and we are plural at the same time. And I know I get a lot of heat for that, but it is the truth. Okay, let's see. I'm going to bring Rosemary on here. You ready, Rosemary? Here you go.
Yes.
Hi, Rosemary.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm listening and I'm saying, aha. When you talked about these minor chakras, and I think about the pain in my joints, and we've talked before about the pain in my shoulders, and
your pain in your shoulders. Were you holding
the weight of the world?
You were Rosemary Atlas.
Well, I was the second of 6, and my mother was just really laid back about things, and my older sister was just like her. And there was some chaos in the family, and I said, first of all, it's not supposed to be this way. And I have that view probably about most things in what I've been engaged in over my life of trying to make a difference. But when you were talking, I said, I think I could see that's where it started from. And one of my sisters, I have 5 sisters, one of them said once that there was nobody that helped our mother as much as I did. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can bring forgiveness to that and to myself as well for that little child insisting on that, and that pain can disappear. I don't need to.
Yeah, you don't need to hang on to
anything.
That. Yeah, and that's a very, very good point. And I think this is a blockage that happens to a lot of people in their lifetime, and I think there's good things that can come of it. They go into a service providing a lifestyle such as you did.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a very, very worthwhile blockage to develop, but it's not one that you want to keep. It's not one that you want to keep. Once you've done it, then you've done it, and it's time to move on. And you do not need to have those pains in your shoulders, and neither does anybody else. Now, a lot of men will have this. A lot of men will have the the weight of the world on their shoulders. They've got to provide for the family. They've got to provide for their job. They've got to provide. And if they're not providing in a way that they feel is the best for them, then that pain comes in. That pain, and it can drive them. It can drive them really in strong ways into depression sometime if they're not living up to the goals that they feel or that their bosses or their society is telling them. Now, did you have any of this that happened during your life with regards to that?
Well, what you said about the service, yes, my early life choosing to become a sister in the Catholic Church, and I was there for 25 years. And it's interesting because it was when I really saw why I chose that, and it was just what you're saying, is to make a difference and to make a difference in the family and to please my mother probably. And then I left. And I saw I could leave and I would be a good person, but I've still been helping people since. But what struck me just now, Chrism, is I don't remember these pains in my shoulder before. But it's just these last couple years. So when you're talking about blockage, there was nothing to be blocked before.
Well, that's the Kundalini. The Kundalini will find those blockages, and that's a very, Rosemary, you bring up a very good point. A person can feel like they're at the top of their game. They're exercising. They're doing great at work, and everything is really working well. And then the Kundalini comes, like, whoa, where did all this pain come from? What's going on here? And that's the Kundalini uncovering not only current lifetime blockages, but karmic lifetime blockages. And once again, I want people to always to remember the Kundalini will offer you the way out. You don't have to try to figure this way out. You just need to begin to figure in your forgivenesses. Mm-hmm. Your forgivenesses are huge. And so, like, for you, Rosemary, I mean, I think your Kundalini just had you reach a certain point within the being a sister, and it just said enough. She needs to move on now. Boom, she moves on. Some years go by, and it's time for your awakening to occur. And once that occurred, and I think you were at the seminar 2 years ago, right? Yep. 2 years ago in Minnesota, and boom, the Kundalini comes up, and then, oh wow, where did all these blockages come from? And it's giving you an insight, and I really mean that word, insight. She's looking at you from the inside out, giving you information about where some blockages are and what you need to do to get rid of them. And I really want to compliment you, Rosemary, because you have kept the greatest part of your service to others, and yet at the same time, you have discontinued some of the other programmed blockages that may have become stale within you, which is what may have caused the Kundalini to move you out of the sisterhood, and into I always like to refer to you as the flying nun, because now you've got Kundalini and
well, that's true. When I was teaching, I got transferred here to Minnesota. That's how I ended up in Minnesota. But there's a gal that I keep in touch that I taught her kids, and they used to call me that because I was so busy, and that was always on the move,
Well, Rosemary, I want to thank you for bringing up such excellent examples of blockage and blockage release. You're doing very, very well, and I want to encourage you to continue.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
I am encouraged.
Do you have any other experiences that you'd like to share?
No.
All right.
Not about.
All right.
No, I don't. Nothing comes to mind.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for sharing.
Are you thinking of something? You know me better than I know myself, I think, at this point.
No. The Kundalini does.
Yeah.
Okay, no, but thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And I'm also going to bring Santara on because I feel she has some things to say about this as well. Hi, Amelia.
Hi, Chrism. Hi, Rosemary and everyone.
Was I talking too
fast? No, not to me you weren't. No.
Anybody in the... I felt like
no comments in the chat room about that. No. What I really, what I'm taking from it, what I really have from this conversation, Chrism, is how that, the karmic blockage in the energy, it's like an opportunity that's presented for this blockage to be resolved, through the practice of what we need to do over and over to remove the blockage, like the forgiveness or the tolerance over and over, and that's what removes it, that it's to be welcomed in a way when we become aware of it. And, for me, I'm just thinking as well, there is such a thing as layers of blockages, I think, isn't there? Because like my fifth chakra, I know there's been a lot of blockage there all my life. And when I look back since Kundalini awakened, I can see that, a certain amount of blockage was released through different, things that occurred. And now again, I'm going through what I would call another big fifth chakra thing, with feeling a lot of energy there and pain and different things that you spoke about. But opportunities for me to begin through the Kundalini to remove those blockages?
Well, I think you're right when you're talking about the layers of blockages, of course. Absolutely. I mean, blockages upon blockages upon blockages. But I don't want people to get the idea that, oh, my God, there's so many blockages here, I don't even know where to start. You don't have to start. I mean, you can if you know where one is, and if you and you want to get into a chakra balancing scenario. But the Kundalini will show you the ones that are most important to take care of first. Always, always, always take your cue from your Kundalini. Your Kundalini will tell you in ways that are visual. So, for instance, I'm going to tell the audience what we talked about with regards to tennis shoes earlier today. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I was talking with Santara before the show today, and she said that her Kundalini kept showing her pictures of my need for tennis shoes. And she asked me, she said, "Have shoes, Kristen? Do you have tennis shoes that are okay?" And I was thinking, well, yeah, I think I do. And I told her I don't usually buy expensive tennis shoes. Most of the shoes I buy are under $20. And then the Kundalini with me said, no. That's not the information that's being given. What's being given is that you need to wear out your tennis shoes by doing more exercise and not sitting in front of the computer as much as you do. Got it. So yeah, that was the advice of Santara's Kundalini, and my Kundalini to me was to get out and get some more exercise, wear out some of those tennis shoes that I have. It wasn't talking about buying me shoes. It was talking about me using my shoes. So I had a good laugh.
And when you said that, Chrism, I went into bliss.
Yeah,
soon after,
yeah.
it was. I knew that what you said was true. And when I'm talking about the blockages, you're so right. It's retrospectively looking back that I can see it, and I'm sure in a year's time it'll be the same. It's you go with what the Kundalini is giving at that particular time.
People have combinations now. Yeah. We can come into this with a lot of blockages, but the Kundalini will know the correct combination of going into the blockage and allowing that one to be relieved, and then moving into another area to allow that. And it's a pattern that is being developed by the Kundalini for a very specific purpose within the individual. And so it's really extremely important for people to understand that there is no linear chakra balancing that the Kundalini will give. It will give you the balancing that it feels is required for your system at this time in your life. And it's really important that people pay attention to that and learn to discern what the Kundalini is telling you. And once again, Amelia thought that it was all about me not having any shoes because she kept being shown shoes. And basically, it's a lesson for her to learn that just because you're seeing a certain symbol over and over and over again doesn't mean what you think it means. Kundalini has 100,000 different meanings behind any one single given communication that the person is acquiring. And the level of bliss when you find out the correct meaning is a great way to learn. I mean, in a way, it's a very basic way of learning. We get rewarded for the right answer, but in this case, the rewarding is bliss, and it's the receiving of the teaching in that way. So well, thank you, Amelia Centaura, for letting me talk about that little teaching I received this morning.
And thank you for the teaching today. It was great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm going to go with the blue here, and there we go. So, if there is anybody here on the chat group that would like to ask a question, I'd like to say hello to Nathaniel Knows Best, and there was another person called Nature Girl. And Fashji, you mentioned that you may be calling in, and I would prefer that we do it not so close to the end of the hour, so that I don't want to have to rush any kind of a response for you. So if you feel like calling in, and if you have any comments or question to ask, it's always welcome to hear your divine male voice on this program. Kundalini will, as I mentioned before, will have a level of combination blockage removal for a person. And that's fine, and I want you to pay attention to that. What you can do is you can go into each chakra, and you can do a what I call chakra breathing into each chakra. Now, you can chakra breathe any of the chakras anywhere on the body, from your big toe to your earlobe. You can chakra breathe any of those areas. But what I'll suggest that you do is that you breathe from the 1st to the 6th. And as you breathe into each chakra, going up that way, the level of prana that is being given into that chakra will also begin to highlight certain levels of blockage that have been developed along your path into the Kundalini. And this is a way to red flag some of the areas that you have in each chakra. And don't be afraid to do this daily. Don't be afraid to do it daily. And it's typically not a one-time shot removal. Now, sometimes it is. Sometimes it is, but it typically isn't. Sometimes you make a mistake that is so bad and it forms a blockage so strong that once you correct it, you already know you will never forget it. And so, that's a one-time shot that's been fixed. You don't have to continuously go over it over and over, all the time. Other things, such as relationship blockages, those are layers of blockages. How did I communicate? Did I communicate love enough? Am I a good provider? Have I been honest? Am I keeping secrets? Am I being overly judgmental, overly controlling? How am I in my relationships? And then, of course, you can answer your questions honestly. And when you answer those questions, that information can serve to release those blockages in your system. Very, 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 very important, because blockages are a doorway for illness. As Rosemary mentioned, she had all of a sudden she had pain in her shoulders, and person would, without Kundalini knowledge, would immediately go to their MD. Oh, yeah, I got pain in my shoulders. And, the best the MD is going to do is, oh, here, take this pain drug. Here, take this pill. And, of course, then you're going to take the pill, and then psychosomatically you may develop arthritic symptoms. You may give yourself arthritis through a blockage. Often the Kundalini comes to people and in some of the joint areas, like in the elbow and the shoulders most of the time, sharp pains can occur. And nothing is wrong. It's just that that area of the body is extremely tight in its balance. And sometimes that balance is disrupted when the Kundalini comes in and begins to change the level of energetic distribution within that very, very tight setting. And as that tight setting is unbalanced, well, you can feel pain. I have had this happen in the wrist, in the elbow, and in the shoulder. Sometimes a little bit with the feet too. Kundalini will go into the sole of your foot and cause you to hyperarch your feet. And I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about with the hyperarched feet. And as these feet are hyperarching, a person can really feel the blockages that have occurred over the years with regard to the blockages there. Well, to the activities done to the foot, let me give you an example of that. One form of Indian dancing, and I don't mean Native American, but I mean, people from the subcontinent of India. One of their dancing forms that the girls do is to slam the ball of their foot into the dirt or into the cement, and it's a fairly dramatic level of impact that these young ladies are doing to the balls of their feet in order to make those bells ring and to do it in a certain way. That can develop blockages in the foot. That can actually injure the foot too. I would never, ever suggest that people do that over a long period of time. But, same with football players, as they slam into each other with all the pads and all those things, those will develop those physical blockages as well as a way of communicating to the person that, well, yeah, okay, I know you like the game, but, your body's not going to last if you keep doing this. So that kind of a blockage can communicate directly to the ego consciousness of the person, and that ego consciousness will either choose to continue or not. But as you breathe up from the base of the spine to the third eye region, and be easy on the third eye region. That's a very, very, very sensitive area. Typically, I have people breathe up to the throat. Those are the safest areas. The first 5 chakras go with the first 5 Tibetans, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're having a lot of issues of blockage in the third eye area, then of course, maybe you can breathe into the third eye, maybe 1/4 of what you would say breathe into the heart chakra or the third chakra, second or first or fifth. So, with that in mind, be very, very, very careful with your third eye, because it can be extremely excruciatingly painful if you try to superinduce not only a blockage clearing, but, I need some phenomena here too. Be careful about the phenomena you wish for, because you don't know what's out there. And even though you don't have to be afraid of it, it's not always the most pleasant experience. You're actively going out there just to engage phenomena, which I would never suggest people do. I never suggest that you go out just for phenomena sake to do that. We're always on an ascendancy platform. We're always climbing up the mountain. We can enjoy the view, but that doesn't mean we have to jump into the view. If we jump into the view, then we fall a long ways down. So don't jump into the view. Enjoy it and continue climbing up the mountain. And let's see, Centaura, do we have a question there? Let's see, somebody's called in. Okay. I will invite everybody to call in. The number is 347-934-0026. Hello. Oh, hello.
Hello, Master C.
How are you? How are you, Fashi?
I'm coming along. I have been experiencing some of the issues that you speak of. I have had some pains in my chest, and
Fashi, can you turn your computer down?
Yes, I'm trying to mute it now. There.
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes. Forgive me for that. I've been having some pains in my chest that resemble angina. And my first concern was to contact a cardiologist. I have to preface
did you do it?
this. Yes, I did, but
Good.
I kind of got the urge or the impulse today to push it out and see if indeed this was a blockage that had something to do with my forgiveness for a certain issue in my life. So it is a pain that extends down my left arm, I might add, and that's what I felt gave me the yes answer that I need to get in and see the cardiologist. However, for some reason, I got this strong impulse today not to go in, but to just wait and see. Of course, there's always the emergency room if indeed it should start to become an issue. But along with that, I've had some problems with my left leg. It gets painful at times, and I'm not certain what that means. Now, I did have some problems in my lower lumbar region with several of the discs previously that left me pretty much on a cane or on a walker. But we worked through that, and I recognize that might indeed be something Kundalini related. So I turn it over to you.
Well, certainly the slip disc can be repaired by the Kundalini. There is actually no part of the body that cannot be repaired by the Kundalini. The Kundalini can pretty much repair any aspect of the human system. But will it do that? Well, now that's a different question, because the problem has been created either by the circumstances that the individual has gone through or by the individual themselves. And so there's levels of teaching that a person can receive from the Kundalini by having the injury intact and beginning to work on it through the lessons that the pain is giving, that the situation is giving. Now, with regard to your heart, if you have good insurance, I would just go in and get it looked at. I mean, there's no problem with that. To make sure that you trust the MD that you have and that he doesn't create a problem because he's got a Porsche payment. Okay.
Yes, I do have insurance. The reason why I hesitate is because I went in and had the catheter put in my one of my legs, and they saw nothing. I even went to a hospital once because I was concerned about it, and they could find nothing. So,
well, there's also a hiatal hernia can really mimic a heart, a cardiac condition, and with it extending down the left arm, that's something that I would encourage you to go ahead and have a cardiologist look at. Always maintaining the understanding that the Kundalini can fix this anytime in any way. You need to really kind of hold that as the primary focus of information, regardless of what you're being told. Okay. Now, if the MD, you got to remember that the MD will also be influenced by your Kundalini. Okay. If and if that is the case, then pay attention and see what's going on, and then let your Kundalini help you feel what the appropriate course of activity is. For instance, I had a very similar thing coming into Lourdes, last week. I went into Lourdes and I was having some, what felt like cardiac issues, and I just gave it up to Lourdes and gave it up to the Kundalini manifestation that's there in Lourdes, and it cleared it up right away. So I knew it's just another level of blockage that I was being given so that I could talk about it with other people. I often find the Kundalini using me as a guinea pig, as a teaching tool. So now with your legs, I think your legs are clear. I don't think that, because like you say, they did put the catheter down there and everything looks clear. Good. And I think that would be more of a Kundalini issue without having to undergo any kind of an MD diagnosis. But I'm not a doctor, so of course you must go ahead and communicate with your primary care physician and see what is best for you in that regards. However, that being said, and I needed to say that because it's a responsible thing to do. That being said, the Kundalini is in charge of your entire system. It is in charge, Fastchi. It is what is holding your body together at this moment. So understand that, realize that, and I have to I'll joke around a lot about the MDs, but not all MDs are the same, and not all have Porsche payments. Some have Land Rover payments and whatever. But no, I happen to know some very, very gifted, qualified MDs here in Sonoma County, and they know about the Kundalini. They know about it. They belong to the group, and some of them listen to the show, and they don't have anything really bad to say about what we're doing. They understand that there's a very limited level of information about the Kundalini in the world, and so it's they're somewhat appreciative about what we're doing here. But that being said, if you've got good insurance and it's not going to hurt you, then go in and get it all checked out. Make sure that there's nothing wrong of a medical nature, and then once you're sure of that, then that the Kundalini is trying to tell you something, and from there you can discern what that message is. Now let's see, message from the heart chakra extending down the left. Well, here we go. Sacred Feminine is coming down the left, and the left leg is also in pain, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so we've got a whole level of pain that's existing along the left side of the body, the Sacred Feminine side of the body, and extending all the way up to the heart chakra. So where have you had relations with femininity that may have been blocked? Where have you had painful scenarios within a male-female relationship context that didn't end well, that maybe was painful for either people? And if you can go back into your history, and certainly not asking you to do that now, but if you can go back into your history and kind of learn and discern where some of these painful experiences may have originated, you can then initiate forgiveness into that pattern and relieve that blockage. I think that there is a very, very, very definite message being given to you, Fastchi, with regards to sacred femininity and bringing that energy up. Bringing that energy up the left side. There's something called a horseshoe activation. It's fairly common, where people will activate on the left side. It'll go up the left side of their body. It'll travel up and go over the top of their head and then down the right side of the body. It's called a horseshoe activation. And, you still get a spinal sweep out of that whole thing, but it doesn't come up in the way that people would think that it's just coming up the spinal channel. It comes around the top and the upper part of the body, and then it comes up the spinal channel. So, this may be something that you're looking at with regards to your Kundalini process as well. And see if I look some more to you. Yeah, and there's some issue with your solar plexus. validation for being worthy, validation being, worthy enough for the Kundalini, for the divine ascent up the spine. And if you have any questions about that, I'll answer it right now. You are absolutely worthy to have this occur, and more than worthy.
Thank you.
You're doing great. I didn't use any of the sacred male photographs accidentally.
I realize that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me know how things go. Let me know how things go with you, okay?
I certainly will. And I did send my snail mail address to you.
Oh, good. Well, I have
as you requested.
I have that gift. Okay. Very good. Very good.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, and hello. I would like to invite anybody else who wants to call in the remaining 24 minutes that we have here. The number is 347-934-0026. 934-0026. I'm glad that Foshji and Rosemary and Santara were able to give their experiences with this. It's such a huge subject. I could do 3 shows on it, but I'm not, because I don't want to give you all the information. I want you to experience some of what we're talking about here. Everybody's got blockages, so everybody has the opportunity to experience what it is to resolve a blockage. And once again, as I've mentioned before, forgiveness is one of the best ways to resolve a blockage, but also surrendering to the Kundalini. So here, let me give you a great example. Another person that I cannot name because, I suppose I could, but I won't. He was very, very prayerful, a very, very prayerful individual. And prayer, like meditation, is Kundalini conducive, meaning that it will produce a stronger Kundalini current in a person. And the Kundalini basically communicated to the person that, okay, enough prayer, no more prayer. You're hyper-stimulating your body, and this is not good. No more prayer. And so the person was given the Kundalini version of a conversation about what not to do, and the person ignored the Kundalini. And so the very next prayer session that the person went, the Kundalini gave them the sensation of hot knives being sunk into the top of their head. Hot knives being sunk to the fontanelle. You need to pay attention to what the Kundalini is telling you. Absolutely. There you go. I finally made an absolutist statement, and I'll say it again. You need to be cogent, and you need to surrender to what the Kundalini says absolutely to you. This is an absolute thing that I will suggest that you do. And in many ways, it'll be in no uncertain terms, especially when it has to do with overamping the person's body through either prayer or meditation, or even doing the 5 Tibetans. I tell people, do the 5 Tibetans. They're part of the safeties. Well, they won't do just 21. They'll do 64 or whatever, thinking that, wow, more is better. Well, it isn't. It isn't. The body is a very, very finely tuned instrument, and you don't tighten those strings so tight that they snap. And they will snap. They'll snap. And so, once again, you need to look at the idea of the ego perpetrating a blockage on the consciousness of the individual. And so, of course, this is why many of the ancient Hindu and the rishis would say, hey, don't let the ego make your choices for you. Certainly not within a Kundalini context. Okay? Your wants and desires don't count anymore. Your wants and desires don't count anymore. It's what the Kundalini wants is what counts. That is what counts. And so if you have a whole suite of blockages, like Santara mentioned, if you have blockage and layers of blockages, you need to listen to your Kundalini. And if you don't have Kundalini, then listen to your body. Okay, and listen to the body and listen to what the body is telling you, and begin to really forgive these blockages. Some of the blockages you must tolerate. Some of the karmic blockages that a person receives, they are not there to be removed. They are there to teach tolerance and patience and perseverance within a difficult, painful scenario. So you get a lot of people that are having, that come in with MS or with any kind of a whole, many levels of different challenging body arrangements. They're in a wheelchair, or whatever the case is. Those blockages are there on purpose, and they are to be tolerated, and they are to be. It's a faster school, really. The people that come into this that are paraplegic or quadriplegic or have any of a series of ailments that cause them not to be able to live as liberal a life as people that don't have them. These people are in very, 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 very fast schools of learning, and these are blockages that the person is learning to get through. Okay, blockages will exist also in the major organs, and I need to say this: the liver can have blockages, the kidneys can have blockages, the lungs, the heart, the intestines, the stomach, the pancreas. All of these organs can have blockages within them, and they'll be associated with some of the major plexi of the chakras. So say the adrenals and the kidneys. Well, those will be situated within the realm of the second chakra, or the rectum and the genitals, reproductive organs will be within the authority of the first chakra, and so on and so forth. These specific areas can have blockages too. Remember that most of the blockages that a person may have come from societal programming, come from the interaction that the individual had with society as they were growing up, or as they have developed within the workplace scenario or the relationship scenario, or any of the emotional or mental or psychological or physical scenarios that a person finds themselves. You typically will not have spiritual blockages per se. You can have levels of a blockage developed through belief system, but the belief system blockages are far more associated with the physical, the mental, the emotional, or the psychological before they are with the actual spirituality. The spirituality of the individual is very advanced and is watching and is learning what it is to be a higher self and things of that nature. So most of the belief system blockages, and it goes with all of the different belief systems. All of them have levels of competition that they like to provide their people, the people who believe in them. And so, yes, Santara, I see that you're red here.
Oh, hi. I was just thinking, Chrism, this might sound strange, but I really haven't needed to know what all my blockages were specifically, or to name them, or to understand exactly what was going on, because I found that with the safeties, when I took on the safeties as my practice, by responding to things with the safeties, by surrendering, by choosing a safety to a specific situation, the safeties in a way was all I needed to do for unblockages that I didn't need to name always to unfold and change. What do you think? Well, that was my experience anyway.
Well, I think that
we don't have to be so focused on what exactly is happening in our bodies. Even with the.
Well, it depends on how severe the blockage is. If the blockage is actually causing physical pain, like many of them do, well, then you're going to want to know. You're going to want to know what that thing is. But you're right. in the larger context, if you practice the safeties, well, one of the main practices of the safeties is forgiveness. And so you don't need to know the name, as you're saying. You don't need to know the cause. You don't need to know what's going on with it. You don't need to know how it arrived, unless it's something that you created in this life. But you just forgive. Let the forgiveness do its work with you, and it will. It will. So you bring up a very,
and it brings more to you when you begin to do it. It unfolds in ways. It reaches right back in and right forward in ways that is amazing, Chrism. That has been my experience anyway.
And for people that don't know where the safeties are, go to KundaliniAwakeningSystems1.com, and then that's the numeral 1.com, and then go into the website. That I want to give a very strong thank you to Glenn Ola of Australia for developing. He's done a wonderful job with that. The safeties are the fourth button down on the left side menu. Go in there and practice those once a day at least. All of them, not just the 5 Tibetans, not just the alternate nostril breathing or the pranayama, not just the meditation, but the forgiveness, the tolerance, the love, the service. Practice all of the safeties, and your blockages will begin to disappear one by one, 2 by 2, 3 by 3.
And Chrism, can I ask you about the crucible of reversal? That's so effective. Maybe you could say a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
No?
No, it's okay. It's just...
No, but I mean, it is very effective. I mean, even in terms of, even without thinking about entities, even in terms of ego response,
Oh, see, that was written in response. It was written in response to hell realms. That's basically...
I know that.
How I took myself out of those areas. But I'll tell you, I think it's worthy of mention, my dear, and thank you for suggesting it, and I will. Crucible reversal is about changing your behavior, purposefully changing your behavior. And I'll use easy examples. If you're the person that's used to cutting off people on the freeway, well, you're going to stop doing that. And you're going to gently merge your car very, very considerately into the stream of traffic on the freeway. And even though your ego and your programming has said, no, you got to force yourself in there. Who cares if they're honking, You have to reverse that behavior. So this is the crucible of reversal is you reverse the behaviors that have been trapping you inside of a blockage or of an area or a situation that is detrimental to yourself and to the other people around you. The crucible of reversal is extremely effective. I should actually, bring that into the safeties as well, because it is so effective in many, many areas of the Kundalini awakening. The Crucible of Reversal, you can find that, I believe, on the Yahoo group, or the Kundalini Awakening Systems1.com in the articles. So,
and also, Chrism, if I can interrupt, Eileen has just posted it on Facebook as well. So Facebook people can read it there. Thanks, Eileen.
Thank you, Eileen. And let's talk
She's
about
spot on there.
She really is. I would like to thank you, Amelia Centaur, and your husband, John, for providing this Blog Talk Radio show. I'd like to thank Eileen, Lauro, and Glenola, and many of the people that constantly go out of their way to help the KAS1 and the KAS1 community continue to bring this information into the populations. I appreciate Santara and Rosemary and Fashchi for lending their voices and their experiences into this conversation, so that it's not all just, Chrism doing this 2-hour monologue, because you can only hear one person talk so long before you start getting tired of it. I know that. So I appreciate everybody who has partaken of this program, and I appreciate Tim and Nathaniel and Madhava Tadi and Bruno Amadori and everybody who is working to help the Kundalini community come into information. And I want to specifically thank Bruno Amadori for translating the information into Spanish for the Spanish community. And thank you, Bruno, and thank you, everyone who is helping in these areas. It's very, very, very important. And no, you don't get a lot of accolades. You don't get a lot of applause. And you may not even, hear a response of your question from me. Sometimes I'm just not allowed to say. But it is appreciated with what you're doing and how you're doing what you're doing. And if you're living this, oh my gosh, you are really lending grace to this world, and hopefully other people can take advantage of that. So I thank you all, and I thank you who are listening in the archives. Thank you very, very much. You know who you are. So Santara, Rosemary, and everybody in the chat group, I'd like to go ahead and wrap up this program. Thank you all for participating and listening, and I'll talk with you again next week. Goodbye.